So, hi guys, Tim and Toby back here again for another episode of the Far East campaign. And this episode, episode 4, we'll be looking at the quite lesser known action which would kind of basically kickstart with an invasion known as the Kokoda Forest. Now, the Kokoda Forest was July 1942, and it's very famous. Well, it's the Australians' claim to fame during the Second World War, during the Far East campaign, because Japan wanted to get Australia out of the way. They just wanted to get them out of the way for, they wanted to invade Australia. So Japan basically had to go right way through a forest known as the Kokoda Forest, in doing so to invade Australia and get them out of the way. So the men who actually were stationed at Kokoda Forest, the Australian Imperial Force, the 39th Battalion of the Australian Imperial Force, known as the Chocos by the Australians, who were basically Chocos, essentially translates in kind of Australian colloquial terms as chocolate soldiers, and they were essentially engineers who were there just to build a railway, really, through just to bring supplies through the Kokoda Forest. And they, well, of course, like every other engineers there are in the Second World War, were armed as well. So they had to try and stop a massive Japanese invasion of their own home country. Of course, there are other, Australian Imperial Force members actually coming out to help them, but for the very first part of it, it was the 39th Battalion, or the Chocos, Chocolate Soldiers, the engineers who are out there. And so I'll let Toby continue with the story. Toby?
Yes, so one thing that isn't often really talked about with this campaign is disease was a real issue. You had a lot of malaria because there's a lot of, malaria-carrying insects in that area, which made, stuff like insect nets very, very important as a piece of equipment. You had, tropical ulcers, all kinds of horrible things like that. A lot of dysentery, which is something that was very common in the First World War as well. And you also have to remember that this is war really waged in the most inhospitable conditions ever, I would say. Really, they had to fight through jungles and very thick forests where you couldn't really just call in tank support. It's not really that easy, because they just couldn't go through. And you had the Japanese fighting for literally every inch. Every inch of the way they would be counter-attacking, defending. They'd really, bayonet charges often are very, well known, part of Japanese almost military culture in that period. They would actually have flags sometimes on the end of their bayonet with messages from their family. They became a very popular kind of bring-back. Basically, though, after a while, the Japanese decided to withdraw because they'd basically been fighting in Glendale Canal, and basically that led to them just having a huge manpower shortage, which drained the blood from the Japanese armies. So I'll hand you back to Tim.
Right, thanks, Toby. And yes, the conditions were horrible. It was, dysentery, malaria. You had to go to the toilet every 5 seconds. It was hot as well, really blistering hot out there in Kokoda in the forest. It wasn't, of course, there was a lot of shade going around, but then there wasn't really, because it was all open. With forests, it was a forest, but it was all open. There wasn't really much cover in terms of leaves on the trees and all that. But what you got is when you basically got massive high ravines, mountains that the Australians had to climb, plus Japanese who were fantastic at camouflage, the best probably at urban rural camouflage. They would have, just like the Germans with their chicken wire Stahlhelms, they would have leaves and foliage all caked around their Type 90 steel helmet and everything on their rifles and everything. And they would literally, like a ghost, you can see it and it's gone next minute. They were very good. They can creep up behind you without you knowing. They can be in bushes. They can, sometimes the Japanese even lay dead bodies on the ground as kind of markers for when somebody goes to investigate and they're hiding off in the distance. Yeah, if somebody touches that dead body, that's that key to charge them. So you had everything going for the Australians in Kokoda, in the actual forest as well. So Toby, is there anything you want to add until the video ends? Before the video ends?
I don't think so. You summed it up very well. So I'll hand you back to Tim to end the video.
Right. Okay. Thanks. So that has been this video done and dusted. Thanks for watching. The next episode will be basically episode 5 will be on the Battle of Imjin River, basically the turning point of the war in the Far East against the Japanese army. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and see you in the next video. Bye.